On today's show, Laura Heywood interviews
only one of the most recognizable pop culture figures in the world. Currently starring in Waitress on Broadway, Todrick Hall is here. Welcome to Laura Heywood Interviews. I'm Laura Heywood. He's back, you guys. Yeah. Todrick Hall, known for a ubiquitous YouTube presence, the epic Straight Outta Oz visual album, judging and choreographing for RuPaul's Drag Race, countless pop hits, including the newly remixed Nails, Hair, Hips, Heels with Ciara, is back on Broadway. And I speak from firsthand experience when I can say he's stealing the show at Waitress on Broadway, where he stars as the quirky, elfish history nerd Ogie, opposite his longtime friend and fellow YouTube sensation Colleen Ballinger. The two have both romantic and comedic chemistry, and longtime cast members who are friends of mine told me after the show last night that Waitress is getting more laughs than it ever has in almost 5 years on Broadway now that these two have joined the cast. Hardly his first Broadway rodeo, Waitress is Todrick's fifth Broadway role. He starred in the original production of The Color Purple way back in the early 2000s, which I saw before the world at large got to know him on American Idol Season 9. He's also been seen in Memphis, Chicago, and starring as Lola in Kinky Boots, which is when we first met. I had the honor of sitting down with Todrick back in 2016, and we totally hit it off. I've even brought some clips from that interview so I can ask hard-hitting follow-up questions. His fans know that he's a big-hearted, shameless, awe-inspiring figure who dreams big and somehow seems to manage to achieve even bigger. I'm so delighted to welcome back to Laura Heywood Interviews, Mr. Todrick Hall.
Hello!
Hi, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for saying ubiquitous. Oh my gosh, I have not heard that word ever in my entire life.
Do you know what it means?
I have no idea.
Then you better be careful what you're thanking me for. What if it was something bad?
Well, it sounded, the smile on your face that they can't see but that I could, made it feel like it was a very, very high compliment. And
it is. Well, what ubiquitous means is like you're everywhere. It's like you can't turn on YouTube without, the third video you are going to get set to, no matter what you've gone on YouTube to watch, is going to be a Todrick Hall video.
I will take it. And it's called ubiquitous?
Ubiquitous.
Wow, I have to add that to my daily Rolodex of words that I use to confuse people.
I feel like it's the name of your new single.
Thank you. Or my new album.
Yes. Ubiquitous.
Yes.
By the way, I've gotten really into whenever I get a compliment on a look, I'm always like, it's just a little bit of chapstick.
I love that.
I bring you with me everywhere.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Okay, so you're in your first week as Ogie.
Yes.
Talk to me about it. How are you feeling?
I'm so excited. It's so crazy because I'm such a super fan of the show that it feels very similar to what it felt like to be on RuPaul's Drag Race for the first time. Other shows that I've done, I'd seen them before, but I wasn't a super fan of the show. But for me to get to play this role after seeing it so many times is awesome. And Ogie was always one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character of the show. And so it's just really cool. It feels very surreal to be like riding out on the little table in the diner every day. Every time I come out, I have like a moment where I think this is so surreal. If you had told the 9-year-old version of me that I'd be on Broadway ever, even in the ensemble one day, I would have probably not believed you. So the fact that it's like happening and has happened multiple times and will probably happen again, it's just an insane concept to me, and I'm just ridiculously flattered.
I feel like 9-year-old you would totally have believed it, because 9-year-old you called at Ballet Studio yourself and signed you up for classes, and you knew you were going to be something.
I just cannot believe that you remember all of these things. It blows my mind. It makes me very happy. And
I left that interview feeling like we were going to be friends for life.
I think we should just make it for real a thing this time. We should exchange phone numbers and legitimately hang out, because I feel like good friends are hard to come by. And I have a song on my last album called Type, where I talk about how I just fall in love with guys who are like the wrong guys for me, and the more horrible they are for me, the more I fall in love with them.
Is this the one where you say I've got 99 problems, but I'll take one more?
Yep, exactly.
I know that song.
That's the one. So on that, but that's also the same with friends. There are certain people that I know of that I'm just like, why do I not hang out with Jade Nova every day? There's a girl named Ashley who I'm obsessed with that I record music with, and I should just be her best friend because I love my energy and her energy and the human being that I am when I'm around them. And for some reason I hang out with just like riff riffraff people that just like suck the life out of me sometimes. And I'm like, Todrick, you should really start work just as much as you try to surround yourself by great people relationship wise. You should do that with your friends. So
Well, this is the promise you made me last time.
is it really?
Yeah, wait, hang on.
Okay.
Okay, listen. Todrick, I love you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. You're so sweet. I think we're going to be best friends.
I agree.
I'm following you back on Instagram and Twitter right now, and it's going to be a BFF situation. You have no
Amazing.
choice. We're
It's
going to go
at-
shoe shopping together.
At Broadway Girl NYC.
At Broadway Girl NYC.
And at Todrick.
I appreciate you. Doesn't she look amazing?
Oh, you are a star.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Is it
So-
still the same handle?
Yep, Broadway Girl NYC on all the stuff. I purposely did not call this radio show the Broadway Girl Show because I actually have so many other interests. But when I started that Twitter handle, it was anonymous. And it was when Gossip Girl was on TV and it became this whole phenomenon. I was following you back when you were Toddy Rockstar on,
Oh my gosh.
on Twitter. And I think I knew you as like the guy from The Color Purple before anything else, because
That's
so
crazy.
few Broadway actors had Twitter accounts that really you could list them all on one piece of paper.
Yeah.
And I followed all of them and I interacted with everybody as my anonymous alter ego. And then in 2015 I got invited to do a TED Talk revealing my identity, like who is Broadway Girl.
Oh my
and
gosh.
it was me.
How many followers does Broadway Girl have on Twitter now?
Almost 40,000.
That's crazy.
I mean, nowhere near Todrick.
No, but that's still insane because sometimes I think it's strange that in this industry we compare ourselves to each other and we're like, oh, I just have 40,000 followers. But to get 40,000 people to follow somebody is a very, very difficult thing, especially without a humongous TV show or without. I mean, it's really, really difficult. And if you put 40,000 people in a room, that's an insane number of people.
Thank you.
No, it really is. And I have to tell myself that because you say that to me, but then I look at my other friends and I'm like, oh my gosh, Taylor Swift has so many people. Like the followers I have is nothing in comparison to that. But I have really been working in the past year about not comparing myself to other people. This conversation is getting really deep already, but
Good. That's what I want.
But,
I want it to be deep, but I want it to also be light, and I want it to feel like we are those friends who haven't seen each other in 3 years. We're catching up. There's deep stuff to talk about. There's
Yeah.
light stuff to talk about. There's like, oh my God, you're living your dream
Yes.
stuff to talk about. There are shoe shopping trips to plan.
yeah, I'm ready for the entire roller coaster that is going to be this entire interview.
Well, we only have a few weeks. You're only in Waitress until September 15th.
Yeah.
And then you're going on this world tour. I was looking at the dates and it's like New Zealand and Sweden and, and then you're finally back in New York in November. But like, we better get this started.
Well, yeah, I'm so excited. Going on tour is my favorite thing in the entire world. It's very stressful because I self-produce and choreograph and do the costumes and design the set and basically the person that everybody comes to with their day-to-day problems, whether that be a girl of that time of the month situation or this person is talking bad about me behind my back type of situation. I like diffuse all problems while also doing the show every night and the meet and greets. But to see the faces of the people who actually like support your music, it's so easy to see a number and not equate that to people. And so to see everybody's faces and to get to meet them and to get to like grow with them and you see them have kids and see them fall in love, and it's just been so cool. And I just love getting to meet them because they are the reason why I'm able to do everything that I get to do. So
Are they still called toddlers, or do they have like a next generation name? Now they're like the teenagers.
no, they are still called toddlers, but I think I'm considering switching it over. I don't know what the new fandom name is going to be, but I feel like since I've graduated from Toddy Rockstar, I should graduate the fandom name to something else. So I might actually get started on that soon because it feels weird now for me to call them toddlers. It feels like a thing of the past that I should change.
I'm going to start giving it some thought too, because words and wordplay is like my favorite thing. Trying to think up puns. When they do like hashtag games on Twitter where it'll say like, change a band name by one letter and make it a food or something like that. Like, I like to play with words.
You would do great on RuPaul's Drag Race because that's the most difficult part of my day when I'm there. I don't know if you watch that show.
Of course I do.
When the queens walk down the runway, I always thought before I got on the show that someone was back there giving them witty puns who had seen their outfits and know exactly what to say. But they come up with those things on the fly and say them, and it blows my mind.
I thought based on like I thought it was editing.
No.
I thought that they were like in a studio afterwards,
No,
and then
that's
they
what I
just
thought.
got edited in.
I thought that people had months to decide the things that they were going to say, and then they bring Carson Ross and Michelle and RuPaul in, and they have them say these lines. But they say them on the spot, and it blows my mind. I've said maybe 3 things out of all of the episodes that I've been in, and it's the time that I feel the smallest and the most basic and the most like not witty ever is when I'm on that show in that moment. But I'm also so fascinated by what they're coming up with that I'm just blown away.
But also, they can't choreograph like you, so we've all got our things.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I would agree with that. I don't know what would happen if Ross Matthews had to choreograph a number, but I also think that the audience and the fandom of Drag Race will be here for it.
I mean, I would, and I admit, I discovered Drag Race real late.
I'm jealous of that because I wish that I could go through and erase my memory and never have seen it before so I could fall in love with the queens all over again.
It's incredible.
It really is. It's my favorite show on television, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on it. I think that the queens have to be so ridiculously talented. The fact that they have to be, first of all, likable and charming and witty, but then be able to do hair and do makeup and make costumes and dance and act and do improv. All of those things are just like skills that most people maybe possess one of them or, you know, like a piece of one of those skills, and they have to be excellent at all of them. Otherwise, they don't win the show. And that is just incredible to me.
Plus, I feel like you have to be really secure in who you are as a person to create a second identity for yourself and to be able to know how that person walks, what their
or
style is.
extremely insecure.
Well, maybe it is a thing you hide behind.
A lot of people have. I mean, I don't want to use anybody's name as an example, but there have been queens on the show that have been like ridiculed for not knowing who they are, or a lot of queens who have come on and in the untucked section of the show gone to like elaborate on why they started doing drag because they didn't feel comfortable in their own skin, and this person that they created could be free. And I feel like that oftentimes when I get on stage and I have a costume on, I feel like I get to become someone else and I leave all my inhibitions away. But sometimes in my day-to-day life, there are moments where you could catch me and I would just be just like a beacon of insecurity, and like, I don't know. I'm like, why am I like that? In certain rooms with certain people, I just have no personality and can't talk to people because I will just revert back to the 9-year-old kid in me who knew something was different and didn't necessarily know that it was gay, but knew that I wasn't like the other boys. So I would like keep my arms really close to me and like not wave a certain way and not speak too much so that I wouldn't attract attention to myself. And it's crazy that even though I can make a video like Nails, Hair, Hips, Heels, I can go back home to Plainview, Texas, and go to a barbecue and be a wallflower and not hardly speak to anyone because those scars from when you're a child are so deep, and it's really, really difficult to escape them.
I can't imagine being as recognizable as you are. I have really been struggling lately. In fact, last week I had, for the first time in my life, what felt like a prolonged week-long anxiety attack.
Really?
Where I felt like I was paranoid. Like everywhere I went, everyone was mad at me. And I think that what's happening is that I am social for a living. Like I go to Broadway shows almost every night, and I host a lot of. I know, isn't it amazing?
We really do need to be best friends.
I know.
I don't have anybody to go with me. I want to go see shows all the time.
I heard a story about how you flew some date out here, took him to 7 shows, and he didn't like any of them.
How did you know about that?
Because I do my research.
Oh
and
my
listen,
gosh.
it was a story you told publicly. I don't want it to seem like I'm stalking you.
No. I've told that story a few times publicly, but not on like a major like platform, like not on my YouTube channel or anything. But yeah, it was a guy that I was like super, super, super into, and he was so beautiful, and I still talk to him all the time. But I was like, if I get to look at your face every single day, I will be in heaven. And he was so sweet and so funny and such a nice person and great morals and ethics, but he hated Broadway shows, and he just could not understand. He would be watching the show and he would see the characters in the ensemble and he'd be like, I just don't understand why that person was mad at them in the last scene and why they're now their best friend in the next scene. I'm like, because they're in the ensemble and they play multiple characters. Why do you not understand that? We cannot be friends. Like, I could not understand the concept of why that was so difficult for him to understand. And I was like, yeah, we just, it's not going to work out.
Waitress is going through a schedule change right now, right? I know you've got like a Monday show coming up, and like, does that mean you're going to have a different schedule, which means will you have a night off that isn't Monday?
It will be Wednesday nights, so I will be able to do things on Wednesday night. But now I'm so stressed out because I wanted to see every show that I hadn't seen. But my album, my next album, House Party Part 2, is coming out, and Part 3, and so I have to go shoot videos for those.
So that's what you're going to be doing on Wednesday nights?
I might be flying to LA to go shoot videos on Wednesday nights.
Because I was about to be like, guess who's going to be my +1 every Wednesday till you leave?
But listen, it would not take a lot of charm or anything to convince me to cancel those videos or to find a way to shoot them in LA.
The world needs, the toddlers or whatever we're going to be called, because I count myself as one of them, need that album and need those videos. So.
I'm really excited to put out the new music. Yeah.
And I have no doubt that the shows are going to want you to see them.
Well, what shows are you living for right now?
Hadestown.
Oh, I love Hadestown.
You saw it.
I saw Hadestown twice, and the understudy was marvelous that I saw the first time, but Eva wasn't there. Is that how you say her name?
Eva Noblezada.
I am obsessed with her. Like, I am not straight at all, and I don't even know if she's old enough to even be somebody who would be a potential candidate for me, but I am in love with her. Like, I have a humongous crush on her, and I think her voice is just absolutely stunning, and I think she's such a star. I saw the show again for the second time and fell in love with it. But to be completely honest, I'm not in love with this Broadway season, and I wasn't in love with last year's Broadway season either.
Interesting. I'm just scrolling through the list of what's on right now. Have you seen Beautiful? Because that's closing soon.
I have seen Beautiful a few times.
I was skeptical about Beetlejuice at first, but it is so funny and smart.
I love that show. I think I've seen every show on Broadway right now.
Really?
Yeah, because I just saw Be More Chill. I've seen, of the new shows that have come out in the past year, I've seen Pretty Woman, I've seen Cher. I saw Mean Girls, which was last year's season, but I've seen that enough to like last a lifetime, but I will go see it again. Beetlejuice. What else is?
Hamilton, Hadestown,
Seen it.
Harry Potter.
Have not seen Harry Potter.
Well, that's one that you should see. I think. Are you into the books?
Well, I have a confession to make. I've never read the books and I have not seen the movies. So I would, and I'm not one of those people that's anti the system that doesn't want to see them. I just want to give them the time that that I really should give it to like read everything.
Yeah.
And I just never have time to do it. And I don't want to go see the show without having a context because I don't know that I will appreciate it as much as I would if I were a Harry Potter super fan, which I think I have the potential to be.
That makes sense. They do give you sort of a little breakdown of what you need to know specifically for you know what it reminds me of, the rundown in the playbill. It's sort of like when you watch a TV show and you haven't seen it before and they go like previously on, and so they tell you just the parts of the plot that you need to know to understand. It's incredible staging, and there's so much magic in the stage work that I think you could appreciate it that way.
Yeah.
But I also think it's going to be running forever. So if you do ever plan to take like 6 months off and you want to
That's not going to happen, so I'll stop you there.
I was going to say you could lie on a beach and just read through the whole series.
Well, I think that I should just go see it anyway because sometimes I feel like I'm being so catty today, but I really, really get disappointed when I go see shows that have been running for a long time and people are marking. It just drives me crazy because being on Broadway is always my dream, and I just think if you are not going to be enthusiastic about being a gazelle in The Lion King, then give that role up so that somebody who is going to leap during Circle of Life can have that role. And when I go see shows and people are not, and every person isn't invested, it's really crazy how that energy is so contagious and the audience can feel it even though they don't realize they're feeling it.
You know what show is the opposite of marking? Like, I don't know what that word is, but like full out is Moulin Rouge.
Oh my gosh.
Did you see it?
Twice, yeah.
Oh.
I love that.
I saw the first preview, and it was already...
I saw the first preview. We were in the audience together.
Oh my gosh.
I was there that same night.
We missed each other.
I know.
So good. I'm glad you saw that one. Have you seen the new Oklahoma?
I have seen the new Oklahoma.
Okay. It's a very different feel. It's like the opposite of Moulin Rouge. I'm just scrolling down the list. If you have a chance, it's opening September 10th, or first preview is September 10th, is Slave Play. It's not a musical. It's very controversial and super important.
Okay, have you seen it?
Transferred from New York Theater Workshop. I saw it there. Yeah, it's written by a young queer playwright who's still at Yale Drama, Jeremy O. Harris. And when I said that I thought it was really important, Twitter exploded on me. Like, I've never had so many trolls.
They were mad that you said that?
That it was important.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they said it wasn't for me to have an opinion on.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm supporting young queer people of color. Like, it made me think. I feel like that's what theater's supposed to do. You know?
We're in such a weird place right now, and it's like so difficult to even talk about it. But we're in such a crazy place because I have a lot of friends who are white that are like, I want to support, or a lot of friends who are straight who are like, I want to be an ally, but I'm afraid to even support or say anything publicly because it could. People could take offense. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like the preparation that it takes before you post something online. We're in such a crazy place, and I'm so glad that everybody is being encouraged to have these conversations and to be aware, because there were a lot of times where I used to feel as somebody who has a lot of people, a lot of white friends, and a lot of people who are non-ethnic as friends. There were a lot of times, even 2 years ago, or even last year, where I would want to have a conversation where I would be like, I just feel this way sometimes, and I really want to be able to express this, but I don't think that people understand. And people would be like, I just don't feel that way. I don't feel that there's not a lot of roles or opportunities for black people or queer people. And it would infuriate me and make my blood boil and make my insides just like so hot. But I had to also take a step back and understand that there's no way they could understand. And now I'm so grateful, and I'm so happy that more people are being are having to recognize that this situation exists and to have the conversations. But I do feel like it's sometimes scary, because it's like on the other side, sometimes people of color or people who are a part of the queer community are almost like they are fighting for something, but then they're mad if you do come across to the other side. There were people who wouldn't get mad at me that Taylor Swift didn't support the gay community, and now that she has definitely started being so open and vocal about supporting the gay community, they're mad that she is. And I'm like, how can she win this situation? And at the end of the day, there is no winning. It's just doing what you think is right and doing what you think you should do. And I think you should keep supporting and saying exactly how you feel, because even you having this conversation with me right now has made me want to go see it. And that's the whole point. If we're doing a show that is not for everybody to come and see and for everybody to come and support, then what is the point of doing it?
Well, I also think that because I go to so much theater, I have room in my theater going budget, let's say, and I mean that more sort of in terms of time and emotional budget, for something that makes me highly uncomfortable. Yeah. And if it makes me think, and it makes me uncomfortable, and it makes me challenge in my own views on the world, for me, that's like a nice variety. But then the next night I go see Moulin Rouge, and then the night after that I go see, Kinky Boots, and then the night after that I go see Waitress for the 700th time, and it's like, so. But if I wanted to go and have a night out with jazz hands, this is not necessarily the show that I would go see. But to me, that's like, we need more art like that.
Yeah.
And what I love about the work that you do is that you somehow manage to, in a lot of your work, talk about super, issues that I think some people would find challenging, even just in a song like I Like Boys, right? Yeah. Which is a quintessential pop song that if it was I Like Girls, it would be passé because it's such an obvious topic for a song. Yeah. But there are going to be audiences who want to put a distance between themselves and that idea, but you do it in such a catchy, I don't know that I'd say jazz hands, but the pop music version of that, that it makes it both approachable and it's like subversive and pop culture at the same time. Yeah,
thank you so much. I really feel no one has ever said that to me in an interview or even in a discussion before, but there are times where I have conversations with myself saying, like, I really want to do this song that has this like very serious subject matter, and people will be like, you shouldn't do it, but somehow the way my brain thinks, it's been just like so glazed with Disney and jazz hands and like box steps and top hats that somehow it comes out in a way that's digestible to a large massive audience. And I don't know how that happens, but even with my song Ordinary Day on Forbidden, when we did this like very controversial thing where a young white man was shot down by a black man and then people just danced around, when I told people that I was going to do that, my agency was like, I think that is career suicide. I don't think that you should do it. And I think it was a very important piece of work, and a lot of people watched it and they were like, I don't think that I was not offended by this, and it was done in an artistic way. And I love doing things like that, and I love using my platform to talk about things that maybe some people would be afraid to talk about, because I just think we're in a time right now where it needs to be done. And I find that a lot of people who are content creators, like I see a lot of my friends who are creators of color, we have these conversations, and like I would say non-aggressive arguments, because I feel like a lot of times there are things that are said that I'm like, I don't think that this is helping the situation. My true goal is for my kids and grandkids to grow up in a world where race becomes a non-issue, and where sexuality becomes a non-issue, and where we can discuss other things, or people can just be gay in a movie or in a TV series that is a family TV series without that being like the conflict of the show. That's the world that I would love for them to live in. They're just gay, and their problem is their dry cleaning wasn't done, or they got hurt on the playground or whatever, not the fact that they're coming out of the closet.
You know, I actually, this is not a sitcom, but I saw your tweet last night that you were like, I just got home from the show. Who has the link for Big Brother? And I've been thinking, watching Christy, because I'm super into Big Brother too.
Oh my gosh.
And how Christy is queer, and she, you know, the audience knows that she used to date Tommy's sister and stuff. And like, her storylines are not about her sexuality at all. But every once in a while she'll refer to like her and Tommy as the gay mance, and she's out, but it's like not a crucial identifier
part of her
for
storyline. No.
And I think there are people who are watching her in Middle America who might not have the access to those of us in New York and LA and San Francisco and, you know, and other like liberal centers of culture, who are probably like, I love her. Yeah. You know, I want to be friends with her. And they are maybe experiencing for the first time that being gay is not like the one major identifying characteristic of someone.
That is a perfect example for you to use, and I'm just falling more and more in love with you with every sentence that you say.
Let's talk a little bit more about Waitress.
Okay.
You're playing opposite Colleen.
Yes.
Was that part of the deal? Were you guys a package deal?
Well, I don't want to spill too much tea, but that was supposedly part of the package deal, and then it became sort of not a part of the package deal, because I talked to the producer, and I was like, I really want to come and do Waitress, and he was like, find somebody who can play Dawn opposite you. So I reached out to him and I said, you should look at Colleen. And he is not a person that's on YouTube or anything, so he was like, I'll go check her out. And so much of the work that she does too speaks to the character of Dawn. It's like such a perfect fit. But then afterwards, they offered it to her, and then they were like, hey, we would like for you to audition for this role. And I was like, but the deal was that we were going to do this together. But I didn't have a problem necessarily auditioning once I got over the fact that he was asking me to audition, because I don't feel like I'm too good to audition. I just would have liked to have known that before I went in. But
there's a difference between an offer and an offer to be seen for it.
Yeah.
And if it's not clear what that is, I can imagine that would be, even let's just say it was a miscommunication.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be disappointing.
Yeah, it was just a weird, odd thing. But to me, I was just like, I have no problem. I've never been that person that's like, I will not audition for anything. But I didn't audition to be in Kinky Boots. I just got the offer. And that's like a humongous role. So it was just, to me, and I'd worked with this team before. But I know that I have never done a role like Ogie, even really online. So the producer and I are like such good friends. And I look at him as like a dad to me. Like, I turn to him for advice. He gives me life advice. And so I was like, I really don't want to be in the role if they don't see a chance that I can do it. And so I auditioned for the role, and I'm so grateful that they gave me this opportunity, because I don't want people to see me as someone who can just put on nails, hair, hips, and heels and play Lola, or somebody who can be Billy Flynn in Chicago. I would love for people to see me as someone who can transform into many different characters. And I'm excited to see where Ogie is by the end of the run, because it's only my second or third day. But I'm having so much fun playing it, and it's not a role that I would have ever looked at and saw myself in. So it was not shocking to me that they were like, we just don't see you in this role because we've never seen you do it before. We're not saying you can't do it, but we would love for you to show us what your Ogie would look like. And I think it's really cool, and it's been very humbling, and it's been very scary for me to do it, because when I was cast as Lola, all of the comments online were like, we totally see this. This makes perfect sense. It's a perfect fit. But when I got cast as Ogie, all of the comments on, the people who were announcing it, Broadway World, Playbill.com, people were like, I love Todrick, but I don't see this role. I'm very interested to see this. Seems horribly miscast. And so I love things like that, because that is a huge challenge for me as an actor to challenge myself to do it. And I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm having a blast doing it. And yeah.
So I have a few thoughts, a few reactions to that.
Okay.
One, you freaking earned it. If you'd gotten the offer, there might have been a little, like without the audition, there might have been a little feeling in the back of your head like, were they wrong?
Did I get this only because...
Like, yeah, they wanted to sell tickets because Todrick is popular, right? But because they asked you to audition, that means you deserve it. And you'll never doubt that now.
Yeah.
And I think that is so significant.
Yeah.
I also think that you're right. Like, you and I in our last conversation together talked about how Lola felt so much like home, and that you even had a story that was sort of similar to Simon from Clacton, Lola's birth. I don't think she considered it a dead name because she'd sort of go back and forth. And, but her non-drag name, and that you were like, yeah, that's kind of my story. And you just finished Straight Outta Oz, which was literally your story as told by you. But this time we get to see Todrick the actor. And I think that human beings like to categorize, and I think we've evolved to categorize, like back in caveman days, you had to know, is it poisonous or is it not poisonous? Should I reproduce with this person or should I not reproduce with this person? And I really believe, and I weirdly like to read about brain chemistry in my spare time.
Oh, that's cute.
And our brains do still have a lot of those evolutionary characteristics. And I think that sometimes when someone's known for being, let's say, a YouTube star, people go like, oh, now he thinks he can be an actor, without knowing that you were a professional actor on the biggest stage in the world before that happened. I mean, even somebody like me who considers myself pretty open-minded about stuff like this, I remember hearing that Jake Gyllenhaal was going to be in Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, yeah.
He did that briefly before Sunday in the Park with George, and I was like, oh, now Jake Gyllenhaal thinks he can sing? Well, geez, he has the most gorgeous voice I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Just because I'd never heard him sing before didn't mean that he couldn't.
And I think we are all guilty of that. I mean, I think that there are certain people that if they were to cast, Nene Leakes in like a major film to play like some iconic, to play Rosa Parks or something, I'd be like, that's insane. I don't know what Nene Leakes is capable of doing acting-wise. She has been on Broadway and she's acted on television, but I've never seen her play a dramatic role, but that doesn't mean that she couldn't absolutely slay it. And I'm so glad that we're getting into this world where people are being more willing to take risks on the casting, because I don't know. It's to me more exciting to see. So I know what Cynthia Erivo can do. I love going to see a show where it's somebody that I didn't expect to be able to do something and watching them surprise me. I also don't like it when I go see the show and they were absolutely horrible. but I'm so thoroughly like amused. I remember the first time I ever saw Diana DeGarmo on stage in Hairspray on Broadway, and I was just like, this is the most talented person on the planet. Like, nobody will ever be able to play this role as well as she's played it. And I wasn't a super fan of hers on American Idol, but I was blown away seeing her in person do that role. And same with Aubrey O'Day as Von Tussle, Amber Von Tussle.
Yeah, also in Hairspray. Not together, though.
No, not together, but I saw her in Hairspray, and I did not know that she could sing those lines, and she was so funny, and she did such a fantastic job and was one of my favorite Ambers.
Did you watch her on did you watch the original Making the Band?
Absolutely, every episode.
Oh, that was Making the Band 2.
Yeah.
Making the Band 1 was O-Town.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot about O-Town.
Yeah.
I loved them.
But Ashley Parker Angel from O-Town has done a bunch of Broadway. He played Fiyero.
Yes, he did, and he has a very, very, very thirst trappy Instagram that I definitely go check out. Those pictures of him on Hump Day Wednesday are just like absolutely life changing. Hey, Ashley.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sure he says hi back. The other thing is that I know that for me, it's really significant to see that Broadway is casting openly queer, gay identifying actors in romantic straight roles.
Yes, God.
Because when a straight actor plays gay, everyone's like, oh, it's so brave.
Yeah.
And then but then gay actors so rarely get to show what they can do on the flip side of the coin. And you and Colleen really have great chemistry.
Thank you.
And it's not just that you can like banter with the jokes. It's like when you kiss on the, in the wedding scene, spoiler alert, I guess, I believe it.
Thank you. I believe it as well. Everything that you just said are things that I say all the time. I'm not one of those people who is super upset when straight actors are given the opportunity to play gay roles. I'm not one of those people. I understand where that comes from, and I understand that mentality, and I understand that we don't have very many opportunities, so it's frustrating for us not to be able to tell our stories. But I also think you're towing the line of, like, I don't know where you stand on this, or if you even have an opinion about it at all, but I just don't think that someone should be asked what their sexuality is when they are auditioning for a role. The whole point of being an actor is that we are supposed to be able to act and transform ourselves into whatever character. But I do think that it is one of those unfortunate things that people don't give a lot of gay actors the opportunity to portray straight roles. I think if we were given the opportunity to play those roles oftentimes, then it wouldn't be as big of an issue. But it's frustrating when there's only one gay film that comes out per year and both of the people who are playing the roles are straight men. But it's also weird that I don't feel that translated over with women. Like, I don't see that same argument on Facebook when Tracy Toms is playing, I forget the character's name in Rent, which not Joanne, when she's playing her, or when Celie is played by Cynthia Erivo, who is not a lesbian as far as I know, or bisexual or bicurious, and Celie is basically a lesbian by the end of The Color Purple, as far as I can tell.
It's definitely a queer story. Like, I don't know that. First of all, as someone who lives a very heteronormative life and also identifies as queer, I never assume, based on what I see, that somebody doesn't identify as queer, because I know monogamous, heterosexual relationship connected people who are also bisexual, you know, or who have the potential to be, or have fantasies about, you know, and I'm only recently sort of coming back into, after what I call a 20-year straight phase, I'm finally realizing that, like, the relationships that I had in my younger life I still relate to them now, and there's always still that potential there. And so I know Cynthia. I don't know how she identifies. Yeah. I also don't know that Celie would have identified as gay by the end, but she sure loved Shug Avery. Yeah. You know, so but that's an interesting observation. My feeling in general is just that anyone who falls into a category that has systematically been oppressed, we should create more opportunities for those people to be lifted up and be seen. Yes. So I think that yes, in an ideal world where the playing field was level from the start, anybody should be able to play anybody. But because we're not starting on a level playing field, we have to sort of try to tip the scales a little bit to allow opportunities for people who have just systematically been denied opportunities. Yeah, I 1000% agree with that. I just am sometimes, I don't know. I'm conflicted. Like, I love Brandon Victor Dixon, and he played, I'm so horrible because I'm not a huge Rent fan, but he played Collins on television, and I didn't see anybody have a problem with that, and I had no problem with him playing that role, even though I don't think he identifies as queer. Yeah. So I think that to me, I'm like a black or white person. I'm like, if that is the rule or if that's the feeling, then it should feel that way across the board. But it almost feels like there are different situations where there's an exception to that rule. And I would be so sad if there was a world where Fantasia Barrino and Cynthia Erivo did not play the role of Celie because they don't identify as queer, because they were so phenomenal, both of them separately, in those roles. And so to me, it's just like, kind of like, where is the rule? How is the feeling of the world at any given moment? Because I think that those were phenomenal performances, and I think that Brandon Victor Dixon was one of the best parts of Rent Live, and I would not have wanted to see somebody other than him in the role that didn't do as great of a job as he did, just because of whatever. So I'm conflicted. Some days I feel one way, some days I feel another way. But I have been recently having conversations with people who are like, there's been so many queer movies, and I'm like, where are you living? Because I feel like we had Call Me By Your Name one year, Moonlight another year, what was the other? I Love Simon another. It's like we have one
big queer movie per year.
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster
Yeah, like
queer.
big budget.
Yeah, and I was like, and oftentimes they're not released in every theater. I'm like, I really want them to be okay with making 5 or 6, like queer movies every single year, because I think that it's necessary and it's time for us to do that. And I hope that somewhere there are producers or people who are behind these like major recording labels and major movie companies that are like realizing that this is something that people want and are ready for, and they're performing really well. RuPaul's Drag Race is just sweeping the Emmys every single year. Like, people are ready for change and they're ready for these stories. And I feel like part of the reason why you might be coming out of your 20-year straight phase is because the world is becoming more accepting of you, like even exploring those ideas again. And everybody's feeling free to be like, this might be something that I'm okay to say out loud or explore and not feel like I'm going to be like stoned for later,
Yeah. I mean, I think that for me, I was feeling like, especially around Pride this year, there was so much media coverage about like Pride tourism. And because it has literally been 20 years since I ended a very deep love relationship with a woman, and I've also been obsessed with boys since I was like aware of them. Like in kindergarten, I can still name the boy that I had a crush on in kindergarten.
I bet you can. That brain of yours is still trapped.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes I see somebody like I just met and I'm like, I forgot your name already. So I was kind of like, I can't go to Pride because I haven't ever been oppressed. It's been 20 years. I like go on dating apps and I'm only looking at dudes. So I don't want to be a Pride tourist. I want to give room and space to my friends who have really fought oppression and those who are out there living their queerness every day. And so I stayed home and like cried and felt lonely that I wasn't out like with my community. And then I was like, oh, it's my community. It is.
Yeah.
And like, I don't need to gain points. It's all about, it's like who I know I am. It's not about like having to show exhibit A, exhibit B, exhibit C to prove that I'm in this rainbow.
Yeah, I don't know. I get canceled all the time for not being a part of the popular opinion, but I love seeing straight families out at Pride and seeing a little kid holding a Pride flag. To me, that is what we've been fighting for people to be accepting of us. And I'm not one of those people that gets mad that straight people are in gay clubs, or that gets mad that a straight person is, or somebody who identifies as hetero is performing or headlining gay Pride. People are seriously upset by that. I'm not one of those people. I'm just glad that everybody is together and that we're celebrating love and acceptance. And I think that I don't know. I'm just not one of those people. And I went through a phase recently where I felt like I needed to be that person when I do interviews and say that I was that person. But I personally, as a queer person, it warms my heart legitimately, truly, to see people who, even if they don't identify as queer, or they never have, or they might one day in the future, I want everybody to be out celebrating. I love that there are little 16-year-old girls that are out celebrating Pride as opposed to bullying people at their school who were gay, because that's the way it was when I was growing up. I would much rather them be in the street mixed amongst all the queer people celebrating and standing hand in hand, because we say in one sentence that we want a world where we all can stand in harmony and hold hands with each other, and we draw these stick figures of all these people of different colors holding hands. But then in some situations, it seems like that's not what really people truly want. And that is what I truly want. So that's what I'm a huge advocate for. And I have decided this year that I'm no longer going to do interviews where I say things that I don't genuinely mean when I leave the room. Just so that I can be a part of what is cool at that moment, because at some times in history, things that are definitely not acceptable were cool and were socially acceptable. And I would rather like sleep well at night knowing that I said, like, it doesn't bother me that Brandon Victor Dixon played a gay role. It doesn't bother me. I think he did a fantastic job. I want to challenge more people to give us opportunities to play straight roles. I think that is something that doesn't
Which Waitress is doing.
Which we are doing.
Yeah.
I'm straight every night for 2.5 hours, and I love it.
Speaking of that wedding scene, I don't know if you improv this last night or if you've gotten permission to add this in the script.
No, I know what you're going to say.
I have never laughed so hard in my life. Would you like to tell everybody what happened and whether or not you're going to keep doing it?
I probably can't keep doing it, but last night there's a moment after Colleen and I get married, after Dawn and Ogie get married, and they bring out this like multi-tiered, humongous wedding pie that has figurines of Ogie and Dawn at the top of it.
As Paul Revere and
and
isn't
who
it?
were yeah, as Paul Revere
and
and
Betsy Ross.
yeah, and after I'm supposed to say, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and then hug her to say thank you for the cake. And when I was going on stage the other day, I was like, that guy's white on the top of the cake. And I don't think that they're ever going to, that they would ever even be like, oh, we need to change this. It's such a small figurine, no one would notice. And I'm not offended by it at all in the slightest. But, at the end of the song yesterday, she brought out the cake to me and I said, oh my God, and I was like, I'm white at the top of it, and the audience erupted into laughter, and Colleen was like, I cannot believe that you just said that, and the entire cast was like hiding their faces. I thought it was hilarious. I think it should stay in the show because I think it's funny, and I think it's a time to laugh, but I do also see that could make Jenna look a little racially insensitive.
And I mean, maybe, but also, like, I never assumed she made that thing herself. I feel like she went to a wedding supply store or like a 99-cent store and got a bride and groom on horseback.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I think that, that, and again, people are entitled to their opinions about it, but I just thought it was so funny, especially because I think, I've seen Ogie played by Tyrone, who's one of the understudies for the role.
Yeah, how is he in the role?
He's so great.
I wish I could see that so bad. He's amazing.
We'll get him to swing you out one day.
Well, he will be going on, actually. This is a good time for me to say it. I won't be there Monday because I'm going to be at the VMAs with Taylor. So I won't be there on Monday because the schedule switched, and I agreed to do it thinking, oh, Monday is our day off because I don't read the calendar before I do things. And then I will also not be in the show on September 14th because I'm headlining Pride in South Carolina. So I will be missing 3 shows, 2 days. And so he'll be on.
But you're not going to be able to see him.
But I won't be able to see him.
Because if you were able to be there, you would go on. Well, you saying I'm white on the, referring to the cake topper is the only time that it's really acknowledged that you are playing a black Ogie and not you are a black actor playing Ogie.
Yeah.
And I think that's significant, just like I felt like when Nicolette Robinson was playing Jenna, I had different feelings about watching her get beat up by her husband, and it had me thinking about how women of color are disproportionately victims of domestic abuse, and I feel like slotting in an actor is of a like a minority actor into a role that most people or that was originally played by a white actor. That's great, but when you can have when the storyline shifts because of that, and you realize it's not colorblind.
Yeah.
It's like the actual identity of the character changes.
Yeah.
I think that can be really enlightening.
Well,
so I vote keep it.
Well, thank you. What did you feel that the audience's response was to that? Would you, as somebody who is not a person of color, it didn't make you feel uncomfortable at all?
No, I wasn't aware of the audience's reaction because I was too busy laughing. I just was like, I wanted to just be like, yes, Todrick, because the whole point of being an actor is to be in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes what happens, especially when someone's brand new, is they go in and they're like, what's my next line? What's my next line? What's my next line? And they're not able to have natural reactions because they're still so in their head about the script.
Yeah.
And while certainly I believe that a playwright's words are final, and you can't just go improving lines in the middle of a show, I thought in that case it was innocuous and funny enough that it was a kick for me.
Well, thank you. I'm so grateful that you were there for the one performance that was actually said, and we will find out tonight. I'm sure I'll get a note at half hour that's like, you can absolutely not say that, because I don't know what that puts, what is Jenna's reaction to that? That's what I had to think afterwards. She thought it was hilarious, but also what do I say? Because she made the pie, and she has to have a reaction to that on stage, and I don't know what how do you respond to that? I don't know. So
my feeling was Jenna didn't hear it.
Oh, got it.
Was that it was like an interior monologue thing, or you were just saying it to Dawn.
Yeah.
we, believe it or not, we're actually getting close to having to wrap up.
Oh, no.
There are a couple more things I want to talk
Okay.
about. One is I want to play you another clip
Okay.
from our previous interview. I've actually got two more that I have follow-up questions about. Here is the first one. Do you write into your contract that you get to keep any of the shoes? You did? I totally would have done that too. That's why I asked.
Yes. There's no way I can't keep these. My mom would kill me. I have somehow managed to get away. I don't know if I should say this, but with a costume from every single Broadway show. I have my entire costume from The Color Purple, an entire costume from Memphis. And so there's no way I wasn't going to take a costume from Kinky
Do you know
Boots.
which one it's going to be?
Well, I haven't gotten a costume yet, but the heels is enough.
Do you have those heels?
I do have those heels.
And what are you going to be getting from Waitress?
Well, this is the thing. The first day I went to the fitting, I started asking for the costume. I think that Waitress might be the easiest show to get the costume from
good.
because it's closing and because they're all like, it's like street clothing, so it's not something like super elaborate. So I don't think it will be impossible for me to get it. But I don't know. I'm just such a crazy person. I have like a shrine to all of the things that I've done in my house. I've started framing them in like glass boxes in my house, all my costumes from my major videos and from the Broadway shows that I've done. I've even started getting tattoos for every Broadway show that I've done, and I'm getting one on my leg because I burnt my leg after we talked in Waitress in Kinky Boots from a steamer that I was using. The water poured out, it melted the skin off my leg, and so I have this big, what some people think is a birthmark, but it's actually just a steam burn. And I really want to get like some kind of cool like lips or something on there to represent Kinky Boots.
You
and
can't
I have
tattoo scar tissue, though.
You
It's
can't?
like baby skin.
look at this. It's not that bad.
Okay.
It's just like a little. I think we can tattoo.
It's
over
like,
it.
yeah, it looks. It does. I was expecting something that, that looked like a burn victim.
No. It's just it
It's like
was
a discoloration.
Yeah, discoloration. It just
Yeah.
looks like a birthmark. But I want to put something on there, but I don't want it to hide it. I want there to be a story to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here from The Color Purple behind my ear, and then I just got this little bad boy on my arm to represent, my hat from Chicago.
Yeah, your Billy Flynn hat.
Yeah.
What do you think the most iconic Ogie costume piece is? The three-corner hat?
Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't have even thought of that. Oh, I need you in my life. You should just like approve all of my everything that I do. I'm going to just send every video to you, every concept. I think so. I don't know if I was going to put glasses or a piece of pie. Is that weird to go through life with a piece of pie on my body? I don't know. I thought about putting sugar, butter, flour in between my fingers.
Oh, I was thinking about which costume piece you would take home, like as a souvenir.
What costume
Yeah.
piece would you take home? The hat?
Probably the hat. I mean, I feel like you're right. Like so much of Ogie's clothes are just clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, you could always get a Toyota Yaris tattooed on you. That's for some reason that is my favorite line that is actually in the script that Ogie says. I am a tax auditor. I drive a subcompact Toyota Yaris. I'm ready to go in as your replacement.
I think that you would absolutely slay as Ogie.
Female Ogie.
Oh, get.
I guess I
love
would
it.
first have to learn to sing and dance.
You don't sing or dance.
I used to sing. I don't anymore. I have a dream of doing a YouTube series where I do 8 episodes, and it's called Laura Heywood's New at This Dance.
I love it.
And do like capture my journey from 0 to something other than 0, because I think so often, especially as adults, we don't let ourselves try anything we've never done before because we're afraid of looking bad at it.
Yeah.
Even though there's such a difference between being new at something and being bad at something.
Preach.
But sometimes they look the same.
Yeah.
And
sometimes
especially
they could be the same. You could just actually be a bad dancer with every amount of training. But I have a feeling because you have such a strong awareness of everything that's going on, I feel like you would be a fantastic dancer if you actually put forth the effort to do it.
I know one thing for sure. I'm not going to claim that I could ever be a professional dancer, but I sure could be better than I am now because
Yeah.
I don't even I know what a shuffle ball change is, but that's it. I don't know. I think I can still do the Running Man from my
Yeah.
middle school dance days. But when, I think you can. I could theoretically practice for 20 years and be bad, but I wouldn't be as bad
As
as
the day
I
you
am
started.
with. Yeah, exactly. Because I
Yeah.
would at least have some some knowledge.
Yeah,
So
what is a professional dancer anyway? Have you seen the
get someone who gets paid to dance?
Yeah, so I think that you could potentially be a professional dancer. Have you seen the movie the video for Can't Stop the Feeling with Justin Timberlake on Trolls? It's just regular people in their everyday lives that there's a huge market for people who are not afraid to look ridiculous and dance in videos that make regular people feel great. And I think that could be, you could corner that market and do all of those videos and make a pretty large killing.
Well, it sounds like you and I both have some consulting to do with each other.
Exactly.
The other thing that I want to follow up on is this. You started talking to the producers of Kinky Boots because they were interested in doing something with Straight Out of Oz.
Yes.
Is there a possibility that this might become its own Broadway show?
There are a few Broadway producers that are interested in bringing Straight Out of Oz or discussing or discovering what Straight Out of Oz would look like on Broadway. Yeah, there is a huge possibility that it will be coming to some theater, Broadway or off Broadway. But either way, you got to wear those shoes when you come see the show.
Okay, what's the update?
Well, I'm so glad that we're talking about this because I feel like you're going to have a very strong opinion about this. First, before I ask this, how do you feel about Straight Out of Oz being a Broadway show? Can you, and honestly, like friend to friend, since that's what we're going to be, can you imagine that show being on Broadway?
If this is a yes or no question, my answer is yes. If I have more than that to say, I would say the first question we need to ask is how is it going to be different? Because what I don't want to see is Straight Out of Oz, the visual album, recreated for the stage.
Yeah.
I mean, just take the same choreography and stick it on a stage.
Yeah.
But I think you do so many things there that can only be done through the what's the word I'm looking for? Through film as its own medium. And I would want you to do equally remarkable things that can only be done with stage work.
Yeah.
And if you can figure out that transformation, then absolutely. I mean, the music is there, the talent is there, the songs and the vibe and sort of and even the through line is there. But I don't want to see Straight Out of Oz live.
Yeah.
I want to see Straight Out of Oz the musical.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
1000%. So, two things. First of all, I have this other musical in my mind that I have fallen in love with. I think it's just like the most beautiful thing that I've ever written, and I'm working on that right now. So
we're getting caught up on 45 seconds. By the way.
So the story is something is coming. A musical is coming, whether that be Straight Out of Oz or this new project.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Oh, what a tease! All right, when you're ready to announce or when you're doing it, I want you to come back.
She
and
will.
Give me all the details. She will.
She will.
She will. And she's gonna take me shoe shopping between now and then, so that I'm gonna look fierce.
I would love that.
Todrick, I really cannot thank you enough. You are, I think, the most famous person who's been on Laura Heywood interviews.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And I just adore you. And I hope that this is the second and not the last time we get to sit down
It's
together.
definitely not the last. Thank you so much for having me back.